You can use the rest of the time here to get you on tape.
Beth and I will read with you.
I've always walked away with a good feeling, but I don't get whatever that part was. But then whatever I did in that audition 6 to 9 months later has been, you came in and did this, right? Okay, we have a perfect part for you. Come right on in. No, or please come into the callback. So it's
That's kind of a good segue. Forgive me if we go out of chronological order, Michael, but that's a good segue for how I came to Fringe. Akiva Goldsman had offered me like 1 day of work on the critically acclaimed Jonah Hex. And Ron knew Akiva from A Beautiful Mind, Ron Howard, my wife's father. And it was 1 day. I was just coming off of like Really Sexy Money and some other stuff. So I was like, I don't know if I want to do 1 day on this film. I kind of feel like I should be striving for more than that. And Ron said, you know what, work begets work. Just do it. Go have a good time. Have fun. I got to play the president's assistant, President Grant, during the Civil War. You know, I just knew that movie was going to win tons of Oscars. And so I did that 1 day.
You were nominated, weren't you? Am I remembering that right?
Probably for a Razzie for that. Anyway, I did that 1 day of work and just had a good time and didn't think much more of it. And then a couple months later, Akiva called and said, hey, I've written a role for you on Fringe. I'd love you to play Lincoln Lee. And I was like, wow, work really does beget work. So it's good to say yes to stuff.
Yeah.
Great story.
That's a great lesson. And that feels like the way it should be. You know, that people get to know you and they get to know what you like to work with, and then what the project is kind of secondary.
It is in a sense. It is in a sense, yeah.
So Michael, how did Fringe evolve for you?
For me, it was the regular old actor's story. I got a call from my agent who had submitted me when they saw the breakdown. I don't know what the breakdown said, if it said, bald guy with minimal expressions or, or what it was exactly, but they said, we'll see him. And I came in and it was interesting because the scene that I auditioned with, this was definitely one of those things where I had no time to prepare. It was like, you get the call the night before and you're going in the next day. And the scene was something that never appeared in the show. It was a scene I think they wrote just for the auditions for this character. And it was something where he was on an operating table but still conscious and speaking to Olivia when they opened him up, they realized that he had 2 hearts and 2 of all of his organs, and they couldn't figure out, why does he have 2 of everything? And it was obviously...
How do you play that in an audition scene?
Yeah.
Well, that's why I got
Did you
smart,
lie
I guess.
down?
Did you have to have 2 penises?
I didn't
That's
have
how he got
to,
the
but
part.
that was the choice I made. Yeah.
Very clever. You and a cup of handy somewhere.
But yeah, and then so I got the part, and then I got a call saying, okay, we have this idea and wanted to know, if you would be up for it, that your character will not speak for, initially they were thinking for the whole first season, that I would just be doing the little, Where's Baldo appearances for the whole season until like the end episode of the first season. And they said, if we do this right, your face will be on the cover of Entertainment Weekly and everything else. The entire country will want to know who this guy is and why is he in there and why don't we know anything about him. And I said, well, that sounds like a decent reason to not have any lines for the whole first season. And then after like the third episode, I guess the executives and the Fox people and the creatives all decided that the character was too much fun to hold off that long with, and so they brought the revelation up to the arrival episode. And then I went back and forth between episodes where I just was there for 30 seconds and spent the rest of the time pissing Josh Jackson off because I was going to the Texas Motor Speedway and I was going to the NFC Championship and doing all these promo things while he was like back in working all the time.
Yeah. Oh my. Let me throw this at you guys. What was the most memorable day on the set that you can recall?
For me, it was first day because I kind of love coming into shows late because you can watch them as a fan first and kind of fall in love with the characters and the world and circumstances. And then to me, the greatest experience in the world is when it's suddenly interactive. I had the same experience with the United States of Terror where I binge watched all of season 1. And then a week later, they called me and asked me to be a part of it. But the first time I experienced it was with Fringe. I had seen the first season, which I think was on around the same time as Dirty Sexy Money. And then when I was asked to become a part of it, it was like, wow, I've watched this show. I had no idea I'd become a part of this world. So I remember my first day was also in this beautiful opera house in Vancouver. And so to just walk into this colorful, rich world, it was the same opera house that was also in Battlestar Galactica. So I was just fanboying out the whole time, and that's got to be the biggest memory for me.
Nice. Very nice.
I think for me it was the first time I got to have a real sort of substantial one-on-one full scene with John. I think it was maybe the scene in we were in like a storage unit, and it was towards the end of I guess the next to the last season, and I think we pulled out the drawing of the tulip. We found a book that had been put in or something, and it was like a real, because so much of my stuff was so disjointed or so stylized, which I loved. I mean, I similar to Seth, I kind of like entering things without having to do a lot first. Like if it's a play where your character comes on stage and doesn't speak for the first few minutes you're on stage, I love that because you kind of get to take the audience's temperature and you get to sort of acclimate before you have to really produce a lot. So for me, the way the character worked through so many of the first seasons was really great. But then it was also really nice finally to actually work with my colleagues for once. Yeah. And that was really terrific. That and then actually being able to have scenes in the final episodes where I had hair and could engage like a normal person as much as I'm capable of.
Wow.
But it is nice to do a lot of television and be off book with no lines.
Yeah. I was a pro.
John, what was a favorite day on the set you can recall?
Oh, God. Look, there's a hell of a lot of them. There was so a lot of fun, really fun episodes like Brown Betty where they're all ripped and Walter would occasionally go up and get stoned or high, and that was always enjoyable to play. How we got away with it, I've got no idea, because the Brown Betty had opened up with this big gurgling bong in the background. And, what do you think, Fox? Can we do it? Too late. I love that. But there's so many. Look, there was an occasion in season 1 where everything was always late. Every script was late and every script was overwritten, and this is pretty standard in a new show. And so what was my favourite thing? Did you say what my favourite thing? Is that the question I'm answering? No, favourite day. Yeah. No,
craziest day. Yeah, favorite day.
Yeah. I look. There were times in the pilot, which were because it was all new, and they'd given these brilliant producers had given me this character, the script, and said, "All right, go and play with it." I mean, hooray! Because I had a lot of background in theatre, and improvisation was something that we do it all the time. Just in terms of blocking and so forth. So the first episode was fantastic. Brown Betty. That last episode, this is probably the better one, where I finally reconcile with Peter and say to him, "You're my favourite thing, Peter, my very favourite thing." And he responded, and he had tears in his eyes, and we hugged. That was really powerful because it had taken us 5 years to get to that point. Yeah. And with Josh Jackson resisting at all costs. We discussed it. Trust is not easily won. It isn't, if at all. So to get to win back trust, it took Walter a lot of time, but eventually he did. That was that scene. There's also a gorgeous scene in that with Jessica Nicole, who I love. She was I finished up being, like the Walter's left hand in some ways, or right hand, whatever it was. But there was a scene in the Amber, and he's talking to her about something in the finale. And just as he never called her correct name. And so as she's leaving, when out through the Amber, he said, it's a beautiful name. I'm trying to think what her real name is because I called her everything else.
Esther.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, let's
we get it. Yeah.
No, hang on. Just say it was Jessica, and I said, it's a beautiful name. She turned around. I said, Jessica. And the tears welled up in her face, and choke.